In this video, we're going to discuss mental ray indirect lighting, and we're going to talk about how to create a light setup where our main source of light is actually coming from outside, and it's illuminating our interior based on what's happening on the outside. So let's begin. Again, just like in our last video, we want to make sure we set up our scene or do a couple settings before we proceed. First of all, we want to enable the color management and make sure that our default output is the sRGB. And again, it's because we want our output to actually be gamma corrected, so it actually looks the way it's supposed to on our monitors. Then we're gonna make sure we go to quality and make sure it's under production. We also want to make sure that we're working on the same aspect ratio as what our final render is going to be, but a smaller size, because again, we're just testing lights at this point. Beyond that, we want to make sure that we're using the Mia Material X, and again, just to show you where those are, just going to go into my hyper shade real quick, and loading. Alright, there we go. Those will be under Mental Ray, Materials, Mia, Material X, and that's what I basically use to create these materials that I'm using on these 3D objects. And again, notice that it's literally, they're behaving just like our default Lambert would. There is no reflections to them, they're just a default shading. But we're using the mental ray materials because they are designed to work with mental ray lighting. Alright, so besides being able to create a lighter interior, and for that light to create the photons and create indirect illumination, having the particles travel from our light and bounce into our object and reflect that illumination into other surfaces, Maya has a physical sun sky feature for lighting exteriors. And again, it's a pretty kind of easy thing to set up, because you basically have to be in your render settings and go into your indirect lighting and just click on physical sun sky create. So when you click on this, and again, we're not going to see much of a difference right now. It's going to create this sun shape, and this object it's kind of like our directional lights, which is not really affected by its position, but rather by its rotation. So again, just to kind of give you an idea of what it's doing, I'm just going to go ahead and press on the render button. And alright, so we're gonna see that our lights are coming from outside, from this window over here, and our room is basically being illuminated by the photons and whatever lights that are coming from outside. And again, notice that we're getting a little bit of a weird result, as if we didn't really have enough photons and you know, being emitted and stuff like that. So and again, this was, and like I was saying, this light is kind of dependent on it, not necessarily in its position, but rather in the rotation. So that's why it can be inside of this room and not really over affect what's happening in the scene, because this is just the control of what's happening outside and not necessarily in the inside. So again, just to kind of make a contrast of what would happen if I move up the light on the y-axis, and just what difference that will make, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate. I just went ahead and rotate it. I'm just going to go ahead and render this one more time. And as you can tell, are able to tell a little bit, our light is actually a little bit warmer than what our original was, and our shadows are kind of cast a little bit differently. So again, just a comparison. So basically the light pointing down is going to give you a lot of cooler colors, you know, as if probably you would get in the morning, and as you rotate it up, it's going to give you a more warmer tone, as you know, as the day progresses, I suppose. And you can, you know, it's not only affected by its Y rotation, but also the X. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate it a little bit to the side over here, and again, that's going to give us a completely different result. So again, notice that the light is not being projected to this side, so it's kind of leaving a lot of this thing is not illuminated. But it's basically the same light as this one. It's just based on the fact that it's kind of pointing in a different direction, it's going to give us a different result. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate it in this direction, so it's actually looking inside. Again, just kind of let it render. We can already see that our light is kind of being projected to look in this direction, and you see really nice shadows. And we're getting some nice kind of warm colors that are kind of being projected in here. We're also getting a lot of noise and this kind of weird patterns that we get when we turn on the indirect illumination. So you know, maybe one thing that we can do right now is maybe change our accuracy to kind of maybe clean that up a little bit. So again, I'm going to maybe increase this by 300 and go ahead and do another render and see if that helps any of that. And again, anytime that I make any changes to any of my indirect illumination settings, it's going to, you know, that comes with a price. You're gonna get longer renders. So just be mindful of those changes, or make sure you make them at the right time. And again, I can't. Have to wait till this process to see if it's actually fixing any of that. You know, I could also start doing some area kind of renders to kind of, rather than having to wait for the whole frame, I could just examine one area. And usually, if you can fix your problems in one area, it kind of fixes the problems on other ones. So again, if I compare the two, definitely adding a little bit more accuracy kind of has cleaned up some of this stuff, and we're also getting some really nice indirect illumination as the light's coming through here and kind of bouncing through a red object and kind of reflecting that on the floor. Again, this is a matte material. It's not supposed to be reflecting anything. This is consequence of the light particle traveling, hitting this red object, taking that color information and bouncing to that floor area and taking some of that. So at this point, I want to be able to take, and again, I could probably go into my final gathering, increase my accuracy, and maybe fix some of this stuff, but I want to be able to take more of that light that's happening outside and kind of project it in here. And there is a method to do that, and it's called the portal. And what it basically does is that you set up a light on wherever your main source of light is coming in, and you're basically using that as a magnifier to increase or to bring in what's happening outside to the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and create an area light. And I'm going to move it outside, and then I'm going to change to my perspective viewport. this is the outside of my interior. And I want to do two things. I want to make sure that my area light is actually pointing inside, to my room, and I want to scale it up so it's kind of fitting. It covers the size of the window. So again, I want to and you can just kind of cover it as best you can. Again, we have kind of like an irregular shaped wall over here, so it's not going to be pretty exact, but just want to make sure that it covers that whole area as such. This should do. Alright, and then I'm just going to go back, and again I want to make sure that the light is kind of pointing inside, so that's pointing in. I want to go back into my camera. Probably want to bring this down a bit, maybe scale it up. Again, just want to make sure that it's kind of covering that whole window. And now I'm just gonna again kind of compare what happens when I put a light, an area light, in here and kind of set it up to kind of light my room from outside. So again, I'm gonna make a copy of this image, and I'm gonna render, and it's gonna take about a minute. So I'm gonna pause the video. So start render, pause. Alright, so this render took about 56 seconds, and as you can see, the light that's projecting in, it's pretty much taking away the effect of what the outside was doing. Because again, I want to kind of bring in some of this warmth color and to affect the inside of my room, but it's kind of oversaturated everything, and I've also lost a lot of my indirect illumination because I don't see my red being projected as much as I'd like to anymore. So a couple of things that I can do about that. Again, this light needs to be, I'm going to be using to kind of use it as a magnifier to bring the effects that are happening outside to the inside. So first thing I got to do is I need to turn this area light into a mental ray light, and in order to do that I just basically check on use light as shape. So this alone turns it into a mental ray light, and again, let's just see if just doing that kind of affects our scene in a more beneficial way. So I'm going to keep this image, and I'm going to go ahead and start rendering and pause the video. Alright, and this frame took about a minute and 4. And as you can see, there are differences in the way that the light's being emitted inside the room, especially the shade over here. But it does not reflect any of the warmth colors that I want to be coming from outside. Again, I'm trying to create a more natural kind of look, since the lights are not the ones that are synthetic inside the room, but the ones that are the one light that's coming from outside. So turning this light alone into a mental ray light is not going to do it. We actually have to go down, and again, I believe this is under mental ray, and you have to go to custom shaders, and then there's going to be this light shader right here, and we're going to go and click on the check box right here, and it's going to take us to a create render node. Alright, and then we're going to go into I believe, okay, I can't remember what exactly is, but I can just find it by typing the name here. I'm just going to do portal under mental ray. Alright, so I type portal, and it's going to take me to this Mia portal light. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and open that. Alright, and now I'm going to make, it's going to give me a different node for this light, and I'm going to make another render just to contrast what it looks like with this Mia portal light added into our area light. So again, I'm gonna make a copy of this, render, and pause the video for a second. Okay, so now we're looking at basically our interior being affected by this portal light, this portal that we created, so it magnifies what's happening outside into the inside. So if I were compared to what it was looking before, this is what it looked like when I originally placed the area light on the window. This is what happens when I turn it, and I made it into a rectangular shape, making it mental ray, and again it just kind of made a little bit of difference on the shadows over here. But this is what we get once we basically add the Mia Portal light shader into our custom shaders. And again, I'm gonna get rid of this one, and I'm gonna get rid of this one, and I'm gonna compare what it looked like before I added the shader and the light. So it definitely brings our colors out a little bit more out here, and it's definitely taking care of some of this kind of graininess that we have going on, but it's definitely not enough. We definitely need to come here and kind of work with this a little bit in order to make it look nicer. And again, one of the things is that it's not really bright enough. So I'm coming back to my Mia Portal light, and I'm just going to increase my intensity by a couple, maybe 2 or 3. Let's just do the 3 and just see what difference that makes in this scene. So again, I'm going to hit render, pause the video. Okay, and we're back, and again, I'm going to make a comparison between basically adding more intensity to our light over here and what we had before in by default just 1, so it's definitely brighter. But then we have a couple of different issues over here that we need to kind of look into. And again, I want to go back into my portal, my original area light. And again, we're trying to make sure that this is being simulated realistically. So one of the issues that I'm having is that my light has no decay, or at least the one that's magnifying what's happening outside has no decay at all. So again, if I'm going to change that into quadratic, because it's going to give me the most accurate decay of my light on something that's that has real-world measurements. And also probably want to start my mental ray shadows. I mean my ray trace. And again, I want to see what if it does any effect on my light. So again, I already took a snapshot of that. I'm gonna go ahead and start rendering, and I'll be back as soon as it's done. Okay, and I'm back. And again, we added a decay in our light, and we introduced shadows, but that didn't really seem to do pretty much anything. And it's because once we added this light shader Mia Portal light, there's only a couple of things that you can do in this attribute editor that would actually affect what's going on here. So for instance, if I wanted to make my light brighter, definitely have to come here to my intensity multiplier, and I could definitely make this a little brighter, so I'm just going to go up to 5. But if I want to address this graininess that's going on my walls, in order to do that, I would have to go back into my area light, and I actually have to increase the number of samples that light is producing. And again, another thing that I forgot is that this needs to be visible. So when you turn when you turn on use light shape to make it into mental ray light, make sure you make it visible as well. And again, I'm gonna go ahead and up the samples to something like I don't know, 40. Again, might sound a little extreme, but we'll see what the difference is between the two. So again, I'm going to start rendering, pause the video, and come back when this is done rendering. Right now, this is taking about 1:30. I believe this is going to increase my time a little bit more. So let's just wait and see. So I'm going to start rendering. And pause. Okay, and I'm back. And again, this took almost 2 minutes to render. And you know, you can tell that it's brighter. And by actually opening my samples, I've actually kind of fixed a little bit of the samples that I got. I mean, a little bit of the noisiness that I got going on here, but obviously not all of it. I'm still gonna have to go back and increase my samples, but it's definitely it looks a lot better. Definitely gonna have to make it a lot brighter. So for my next test, I'm actually gonna increase this to maybe 10. And again, I want to go back into my original light, and I'm gonna up my samples by 60. And again, this is going to increase my rendering time a little bit more. Another thing that I might want to do is maybe up my accuracy a little bit to kind of soften that up a little bit. So it went from 300 to 500. So again, I'm going to start rendering and pause the video and come back when it's done rendering. I'm also going to go ahead and make keep this image so I can start comparing what's you know, the difference between the different type of tests that I've been making. So render, and I'm going to pause the video. Okay, now I'm back, and again, we're getting a lot. This result is a lot better than what we previously had. And again, I'm going to make sure I make a copy of this. It took 2.5 minutes, but again, it's not only how bright it is, but it's, again, the noisiness and how clean my shadows are is actually getting better and better. So again, the more I want to clean the scene, I have to make sure that I go into my area light and I hide my samples, make them higher. And I also want to change my accuracy, but again, just keep in mind that doing that is going to increase your rendering time. I mean, you're rendering a lot. If I wanted to change the way that my shadows looked, again, I'm going to come here and select my my sun shape. Okay. Trying to find the right one. Okay. So again, one thing that you got to keep in mind is that there's kind of there's a little bit of a relationship between this original sunlight and basically the portal. So so this is kind of working as a magnifier for this to bring the lights into the room. But if I wanted to make the lights bright, I mean the light coming from outside brighter, I don't go directly to my my sun shape, but I'd rather I would go to my area area light, and then we'll have to find the Mia portal light that we applied, and we would increase our multiplier here. Okay, and also we could also change the color, you know, make this warmer if we wanted to. But also keep in mind, by changing the direction in rotation of our object, of our sun shape, is basically going to kind of change that as well. So there's going to be a relationship between the two. We also discussed that if we wanted to make sure that the graininess in our shadows and things like that were changed, or you know, that the quality is a lot better, we would go into our area light and actually higher samples to be able to take care of that. And also making our accuracy higher would help with that as well. It'll smooth our results out. But another important thing within this this sun shape, it's basically the Mia physical sun 1. And again, one thing that we can kind of change here is also the softness of our shadows. So again, right now we're seeing the results of what a soft shadow at 1 looks like. You know, if we wanted to make it a lot softer, we could actually increase that and up the samples if we wanted to fix that a little bit as well. So and again, this is a pretty nice result for what we're trying to do. Again, the idea was to create a way to bring that the light that was being created by our physical sky, and being able to bring in some of that light into our scene by creating this this magnifier that, again, it's called the portal. And we did that by making sure that our area light was used as a light shape. We also made it visible. And then the following thing we did is that we applied a Mia portal light into the custom shader that actually created a relationship between our sun, basically, and this portal. And again, now by creating that relationship, our portal is kind of magnifying the type of light that's happening outside into our interior. Alright, I hope this was helpful.